A letter of intent, or otherwise known as an LOI, is your starting point for any negotiations in a deal. So you definitely don't want to get off to the wrong foot by putting forward a LOI that might offend a seller. So in this video, I'm going to break down the ways that you can best structure your deals and draft your letters of intent so that they're going to be well received and lead to a higher closing and acceptance rate. So to go over some basics, a letter of intent is actually a non-legally binding document for the most part, where you're really just trying to establish the commercial terms, so the business terms of the deal. That includes the business price or offer price, the potential closing date, how training and transition will work, non-competes, and a bunch of other factors I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in a moment in a letter in which you address to the seller, and you're really just trying to establish, hey, are we on the same page here with these terms? There are some sections generally that are legally binding. These might be confidentiality, so you're not going to disclose the sale to anybody. And the business owner is going to continue to maintain a normal course of business, so they're not going to make crazy changes to the business between the time that they accept your letter of intent to the closing date or run the business into the ground. And it's really going to also be an opportunity as a buyer to get exclusivity of the deal for some period, so that while you're spending money and doing due diligence, that a seller just can't sell the business at the last 11th hour to somebody else. So there's kind of two different parts there. In terms of the commercial terms, what I like to do, or generally advise buyers do, is establish as much of the commercial terms before bringing a lawyer in to review that document for you. And the reason is this: money. It's to reduce your costs generally on the transaction. I've seen so many times buyers that have insisted on having their lawyer draft a letter of intent, spend thousands of dollars on a document, only for that letter to get turned down by the seller because the price was completely off base, the terms were not acceptable, and that could have, they could have saved thousands of dollars with an email or simply a phone call, really. So what we try and do is get that LOI drafted, put in those key terms, and we're just going to dive into some of the big ones right now. So first one is an obvious one. That is going to be your purchase price, and you're going to want to break down, is that purchase price all cash? Is there seller financing, or is there an earnout involved? I have videos on earnouts and seller financing I recommend you watch, and I'll link below. Additionally, you're going to want to establish when the closing date is. So realistically, when do you think you can close this deal? Are you requiring external bank financing? And then other key conditions of the deal. So reviewing the books and records of the business, understanding or getting a lease transfer acceptance if there's real property associated with the business, and you need to get that lease established. Ensuring that you get a chance to interview a key staff member if they're vital to the deal, and then typically that's removed at the end of the due diligence process, and any other conditions you want included. Other big ones is training and transition. So are you wanting the owner to help you in support of the business full time for 4 months after the closing date? That might be a little bit harder than asking for maybe 2 or 4 weeks of full-time training, and then it transitions to an hourly rate that the owner can provide. What's pretty common is that we see a phase out or a tapered approach where they start full-time and then they provide you less and less training. And then eventually there's a consulting rate. So some dollars per hour for additional support and training after the closing period is over. Other things as well is how are contracts going to be included? Working capital is one of the biggest ones, which is a topic for another video. But are you going to define how much working capital is included in the deal? Does your purchase price include inventory, if there's inventory involved? A bunch of other things that you want to hammer down, which we have a standardized template that we can provide to help you with putting that together. But really, again, this is a document that's going to put you in the initial conversations of your negotiation. So if you try and lowball somebody, they could just ignore it. You want this to be a conversation starter, and understand that there's different levers to pull and use to finalize that LOI and get you to where you want to be in the deal. So when you are working on that LOI, typically you can utilize an M&A advisor like ourselves to help you draft that and give you a second set of eyes and kind of prepare that LOI to be accepted in the best light. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out. If you do want a copy of our LOI template, we are able to provide that to you and help you with your next purchase.